Hey guys, on the bench beside me is the Losi Lasernut. Love this car, it's awesome. We did do a few changes to it. It no longer has the tire on the back. We put a fin on there, so the wing does help stabilize it a little bit when it's in the air. We like to jump these things. But this has a few weak points in it, and we've slowly addressed those over time. First off was the center differential. That was a weak point. It stripped out on the unboxing video, and we fixed that. Then we started breaking hub carriers, and the hub carriers, we went to aluminum on that, so that seems to have solved that problem. But the arms are also a problem. We've just been informed that RPM now makes arms for this machine. So in this video, we're gonna put these on. There will be a link in the description down below as to where to get these and what they are. But in this video, we're gonna go ahead and install these, show you how that's done. Then we're gonna take it out and we're gonna test it, and we're gonna see if these hold up better than the stock arms. Nothing worse than going out with a car that you really enjoy and right off the bat break an arm and can't run it the rest of the day. That sucks. Hopefully this will fix the problem. This should be a lot of fun, guys. Check this out. All right, so let's get down on the bench and get these arms installed. All right, so let's get the front wheels and tires off, and we'll go after the front end first. Now we're gonna break down one side of the car and show you how it's done. It'll be the same for both sides. So let's get the shock detached to start with. We just need to pull this one screw and get it detached from the arm. Now let's pull two screws out of the hub carrier, just the bottom two here. And this will be the same whether you're using the aluminum hub carriers or not. Just like that. Then we'll tuck that out of the way. We don't need to take it clear off the car, just get it out of the way for now. And don't forget these two collets in here. These are spacers, you need those. And they will fit in the new arms. Okay, now this is the sway bar, so we want to detach the sway bar. We'll get it pulled out of the arm here, just like that. Now we'll have to go after the bumper assembly. There's two screws on the bottom here to loosen things up. So we'll get those out of the way. And there's two on the top. That'll come off just like that. Now the bumper hides these two screws, so you need to get these out. And this will allow you to take the aluminum piece off that hold the hinge pins. There it is. And that allows you to take that right off. So it's the same for both sides, guys. Here's the new arms here for the front. And don't forget these screws. There we go. And those are the same, so the arms are built identical, so it doesn't matter which one you pick, just make sure it's lined up the right way. And we'll put them on the car. And make sure you get this block back in the same orientation in which it came off. And that will hold the hinge pins in place. And then the cover, and that keeps the pins from backing out. Just like that. There we go. We'll run those in. Good. And torque everything by hand here. Check for binding and make sure everything moves smoothly, and then we'll put the bumper back in place. And of course, torque by hand. There we go. Excellent. These are where the collets go, and we want to put those back in the new arms. And we'll put the screws back in. Now this is aluminum, so make sure that you put some Loctite on this. There you go. Just like that, and everything's moving freely. Okay, let's get the collets in the other side and connect it. We're going to go a little faster through this side because you watched us do the other side. Don't forget the Loctite. Now let's go ahead and get those shock absorbers connected, and for the start here we're going to go for the center hole. We may adjust this later, but for right now we'll just go for the center hole. Alright, we'll go ahead and connect the sway bar assembly. Let's get that orientation right. And then these are kind of long-winded, so we're going to run these screws in. It takes a minute. There we go, still moving freely. And this is the easy way. Now that was sped up, we still ran the screw in real slowly. Very good. So let's get those wheels and tires back on. There we go, and that completes the front end. So let's get the rear wheels and tires off now. There we go. And just like the front, we'll take the shocks off first. There we go. And we'll do the same for both sides. And this is the sway bar, so it's been relocated up above. So we're going to detach that, and I like to put the nuts back in place so I don't lose anything, so we'll do it that way. And that allows that to get out of the way. Now we'll take the bottom block out and we'll relocate the hub carrier out of the way, and we'll do the same for both sides. There you go. We'll go to the bottom now and we'll pull these two screws. That'll allow us some movement. And we'll take the two off the back. And we shouldn't have to remove the wing for this. We can flex this down a little bit. And these are really long-winded, so it'll take a little effort to get these out. Make sure you keep your tool in line good. There we go, and that flexes out just a little bit. That should allow you to get this little piece off, and of course the aluminum block that holds things. There you go, that's what it is. And now the arms fall right off. Easy peasy. Okay, here's the new arms. Keep track of all our screws here. And there's a pretty good difference in build size. The nice thing about RPM is they're plastic flexes too, so not only is it more sturdy, but it's actually more flexible, so it'll bend instead of break. So let's get the linkage off for the sway bar and keep track of the orientation as to how it went on. We'll put it in the new arm. There we go, check, make sure it moves freely. And we'll put the hinge pin in. Look at the difference. Okay, same thing on the other side. Just like so. And we'll reinstall it on the vehicle with the new arms. And we'll get our screws back in place. And these are such long screws, let's use the power tool to do it. But if you're using a power tool, nice and slow, you don't want to go fast. You'll burn out the threads if you go fast. So always nice and slow, and then torque by hand, just like so. There we go. Then we'll reconnect the sway bar. Both sides. There we go, thread her up good. And we'll reconnect the shocks. And then make sure that you get the drive axle in the cup before you set this down. It moves okay, but it still doesn't feel quite right. Let's get the other one installed. There we go. And yeah, there's something wrong with the way that feels. Let's take this back apart. And what it comes down to is the pin that goes through isn't as long as I'd like it to be. It's a shoulder bolt right here, so it needs to torque down to a certain distance. And with one spacer out, it actually torques down properly and the movement's good. So with these arms, unless you come up with a longer shoulder bolt that goes through there, you want to take one of those spacers out. If you're using the aluminum blocks, you definitely want to do that. Okay, so there's the installation for the RPM arms on the Lasernut, and here's a problem that we generally have with these, and it is this one. Here you go. And this is one of the front arms, and these things break on the regular, and I'll try and get this so you can get a good look at it, but it's broke all the way across here, and we've lost several of these to this same issue. See how it flexes? Okay. If you can't see that, I'll try and get you one up here of it, but at the same time, this is a weak point because there's a hole right here for the shock absorber where it connects, and it's a really thin piece of plastic followed by another. This one here is only half the depth in that one, so they're two little pieces of plastic, and the only thing that held on is this one bit right here with the web. But at the same time, we broke a lot of these with this car, and they're just built too light. Now, if you're racing, light is king, I understand that, but we're not racers, we're bashers. So at the same time, when you get into the RPM arms, they're a lot thicker than the others, and there's a couple things you need to know when you're doing this, and one of them's right here on the back, and get you up close here. Right here, this is the rear sway bar, and it's on both sides, and there's these two long links that go down to the arms. You have to get your orientation correct on this because there's an offset on this ball for this long shaft, and it has an offset towards this linkage, and if you put it in backwards, it's not going to fit correctly and you'll have to take it all apart. Ran into that problem myself. So that's the thing, make sure that this is the right direction when you put it on the arms. Also, you need to install it on the arm first because you can't get a wrench to it unless you're going to do it with one of them little wrenches. You can't do anything about it once it's on the car, so you'll have to take it back off to fix that. You didn't see it in the video, but I ran through that problem as well. So those two little kicks right there are those issues, and since the RPM arms are more manly than the stock arms, these little washers right here, these spacers that go in the back for the aluminum hub carriers, okay, there's 4 of these, 2 per side for the stock arms. But if you use all 4 with the RPM arms, it will pinch it and then it won't travel freely. And here's the thing, This rod that goes through here, right at the end of the arm, that holds the hub carrier, is actually a shoulder bolt. So you can crank these down nice and snug. It'll run to a certain distance and stop because there's a shoulder in there to keep you from pinching it. Once you take one of these out per side, it'll squeeze the arms in a little bit, but it'll stop at the right thing. You'll get free travel on your suspension. So if you're going to use the aluminum ones, make sure and only run one of these, or you'll lose parts, things won't work properly, and your suspension will act funny and you won't know what's going on. That's what it is, this little guy. Now that it's all put back together, there's only one thing left to do, guys. Let's take it out and see if the upgrade was worth it. Check this out. Okay, so there's the running footage for the upgraded arms on the Lasernut. Now, these are really strong arms, guys. We put this through a lot of punishment. You got to see some of the footage, but we had more out there and we had a camera fail and we lost the whole day. That was unfortunate, but we had no breakage on that day and it was punishing to say the least. We still had a lot of sudden stops on this. We took a lot of front end impact. We took a lot of that, and the stock arms just flat out would never take that kind of punishment. This now really does have a lot more strength to it. But we did have one issue, and it's not really an arm issue. What it is if you've got the aluminum hub carriers on yours, when you put these on, the rod here is a little bit too short for the RPM one, so they may sell a longer one. We're unsure of that. But if you use this one, use one shim, but make sure to Loctite these. Even though these nuts on here are nylocks, and of course you depend on a nylock to do its job, be sure to put some Loctite on that to hold these nuts in place, because we did lose one. Other than that, everything went really well. Nothing broke front or rear. They're still in perfect condition, and we punished this thing good and proper. So as far as the arms go, is it worth the upgrade? Absolutely. They are definitely an upgrade to this vehicle. We do run in really dusty conditions a lot of the time here, and this one now is going to have to be tore down and have all the bearings cleaned out and everything, because we are having some squealing in the bearings, and it is just due to our situation here. When we run in moisture conditions and not the situation that we had during this bash session, we don't have that problem nearly as badly. But when it gets as dusty as this was, always make sure and care for your bearings. You got to wash them out, make sure you can get as much of the dirt and goo and all that stuff out of them as possible, and lube them up with something that's not going to stay wet. I try to stay away from actual WD-40, but they do have a dry lube now that we're going to test in one of the upcoming videos. Still, this does work really good with the silicone lube that we normally use, and once you get it cleaned out, we generally throw some blaster in there, and this is a silicone, maximum strength silicone, and it dries out and does not attract dust. It does a really good job of making sure everything gets rinsed out. It does leave a lubricated surface in there, but it doesn't stay wet, so it doesn't hang on to dust, which is a really good thing. So there you go. The arms are definitely worth it. Love the upgrade. Always been a fan of RPM stuff. And for those of you that are curious as to what we're using for batteries, we like the Ovonic brand. These work pretty good, and these are just 50C, and they're 5,000 milliamp hour. Now, some of our batteries are longer than this, so we did modify the battery tray to make that work. But at the same time, this is the battery we tested it on. These work just fine, and it does have the stock running gear. We did have to modify the center differential when we first got the car, but other than that, everything's stock, including the gearing, except for the tire change. So there you go. So if you haven't already, don't forget to bash that like button and help our content spread. You know, we like doing these kind of videos. We love helping people in the community understand how to make their vehicles tougher than they come out of the box, especially when you got weak points. It's nice to get those out in the open so people know how to fix them. If you have any comments you'd like to add, please feel free to leave it in the comments down below and help others along the way. Hey guys, for AJ Jam Studios, I'm AJ saying, keep bashing, guys.